Hey everybody, Christina here. This is episode 2 of Personal Power. The first episode we talked about what does personal power mean and the experience a lot of people have when they, identify someone to be in a relationship with, or a community or a mentor or a teacher or a family member, and that, we can literally experience like a string going from you to that person, place, or thing, and then all of a sudden them having agency over your emotional state in such a way that can be really detrimental. So we talked about personal power generally, an introduction in episode 1. Today I want to talk about what happens when you're in a power struggle. And so I want everyone to think about at least one person that they know, that no matter what happens, whenever you get together, generally you will end up in a power struggle. And the first thing I want to encourage you to do is thank that person, even just in your mind, because they are highlighting for you an area of weakness, an opportunity for growth. The people that make you angry and the people that make you feel powerless, as annoying as they can be, those are the exact people that will give you the opportunity to look at yourself deeper should you choose to do so. So overall, I want to encourage people to examine your relationship with power. When you walk into a room, do you want to dominate it? When you walk into a room, do you give it up to other people? There's no right and wrong, but I do think that there can be a balance. Who are the people in the room that you are afraid of taking your power? These are really good questions to ask yourself when it comes to power struggles. If you are a person that likes to have power, I'd really encourage you to ask yourself why, and at what cost to relationships does that have on you. I've certainly experienced this with myself, where I will say something or do something or assert myself to have a kind of power over someone or a space, and later reflect and ask myself and realize, like, why did I need that? Why did I need to feel powerful? So what do we do when we get in these power struggles? And it really does, to me, from the outside looking in, from my experience and from sort of being an observer of power out in the world, it really does tend to be a cycle. And one person will say something to dominate, and the other person will get defensive, and you throw something back because you think that's how you, as the powerless, are now going to get your power back from that person. So you then become them, in an effort to make them feel the way you felt. And it's not totally conscious, but this is what we do when we're stuck in power struggles. We get defensive when we shoot something back at them, and then they do the same thing to us. And it's all this really desperate need to feel like you have a leg up, to feel like you're right, to feel like you won. Carolyn Mace would call that cheap power out in the world, us trying to assert ourselves to have a kind of dominance. One of the potential solutions, certainly if you have felt yourself in this and felt it kind of going nowhere, is to step out of the dynamic. And what I mean by that, by stepping out of the dynamic, is that with self-awareness and over time, you can actually observe yourself in the moment, real time, when these things start to happen, and you feel your trigger and you become aware of who you are when you feel like your power is threatened. And when you have that awareness of yourself, you can then stop from feeding the cycle over and over again. That doesn't get anybody anywhere. It doesn't make anyone really get a sort of lasting feeling of genuine goodness or real power. And I encourage you to just kind of stop and step out and say something that you normally would never say. And generally, it's something that you think won't get you any power at all. You sort of wave the white flag, and I think it's anti-intuitive to feel like you're letting someone win. But a lot of times I really think that it's the only way out of that really useless struggle between two people. So some of the benefits of stepping out of these power struggles and increasing a kind of self-awareness when you run into them is that you no longer sort of are victim and addicted to kind of this cheap power that we're talking about, and these little arguments and cycles and dynamics that, to be honest, are really ultimately not helping anyone, and they're certainly not giving you or I a lasting sense of self-confidence and fulfillment. By being self-aware and by taking a beat and taking a second and stepping out and stepping back, the result is really amazing. And at first people might be confused and actually kind of prod you, like, hey, you used to be that person that got in arguments with me, like this isn't fun anymore. What you will eventually realize is that you feel a lot better, and a lot of times for me, I felt like I was able to stay more in what I'm kind of referring to as my integrity and my values, and I don't feel threatened because I don't act threatened, and I don't succeed at it every time, but when I do, and when I can sort of stop that auto reaction, that auto survival, auto primal, auto fight mode that we get into when someone says something aggressive, I encourage and challenge you to practice this, to try it out, to practice taking yourself out of familiar and sometimes unhealthy dynamics and power struggles. If one person changes in a system, the system changes itself. So you never know what could happen. You never know how that relationship could change or improve because you won't play that game anymore. So that is today's thoughts on episode 2. Tell your story, live your truth. No one journeys alone.